Get over here! So how you doing, Miss Alexis?
I'm doing great.
Wow.
That intro.
Yes. So let's give us some of that Jackie Chan stuff or Chuck Norris or whatever you got.
Right.
What you got?
Right. So thank you so much for having me on today. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. I want you to
hi, John. Good to see you.
tell some of our viewers how you got started, your background, and how it trickled down from your parents.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong martial artist. My name is Alexis Tierney Cole, located in upstate New York. Both of my parents are 10th degree black belts in their system. They ran their own school for 51 years here in our local community and had a tremendous impact on many lives in martial arts. I was born and raised in the dojo, and it's just something obviously very natural that I would be pursuing what is within my family. And so as of today, I now run my own operation. My parents have since retired, and I teach martial arts, karate and kickboxing to children from the age of 3 all the way up through the adult levels. And it's my calling. It's what I do.
That's incredible. It's amazing. We get fascinated with so many movies and things like that, our martial arts has literally, infiltrated every form of media and entertainment, and it's been exploited to make billions, from superhero movies to documentaries to sports, everything, entertainments, commercials, they all use some aspect of martial arts marketing to promote whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I mean, there's a tremendous impact that it can have on people's lives. And as an instructor, we get to see that on a very personal level when we see people come into the training and we see the changes that it has and the positive influence that it has in their lives. That is what is rewarding to me, is seeing what we can do with this tool that we've been given.
So I see you got is that a heavy bag behind you, or?
Yeah, this is my
what you got there?
Bag. I'm here at my home studio. So this is not my favorite bag in the world, but this is what works well within the house.
Awesome.
I like a nice hanging bag or a heavy duty Wave Master bag. This tends to move quite a bit, so I like to pin it against the wall so it doesn't, for certain things. Okay. It's just my preference.
Okay, you have any specific strikes, hand or leg movements that you can show us?
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Basic beginners or even intermediate?
Yeah, so when talking about certain things like this, it's important to understand your opponent and where their vulnerable areas are, because you can hit somebody with a perfect strike, but if you're not hitting the right surface, then you're not going to have as much of an impact as you need to have. When we're talking about the face, we're talking about the eyes, the nose, going right, to the ears or to the chin or to the side right here. We're talking about hitting people where they're most vulnerable. And, when you're talking about leg strikes or anything like that, solar plexus or working, below the belt towards the legs and, of course, the groin. So it depends on, obviously, the situation and what the person feels that their strongest abilities are. Some of us in the martial arts are more prone to being hand strikers and we're more of punchers. And some of us are more preferable to be doing the kicks, where some of us are more like kickers. So, it all depends on the person. So talking about a couple of things that maybe just a basic person, let's just talk about how to make a fist. First of all, if you were to come into my program on the first day, we would just talk about how to make a proper fist. Because if you don't have a proper fist, you could break your hand, and then the fight is over. You don't have it. You don't have it.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna take your hands and you're gonna curl your fingers back, okay? And curl them. When I work with children, a lot of times they'll tend to make their fist this way. You want it as tight as possible, and then you're gonna wrap that thumb just like so. So squeezing that hand as tight as possible. Now, I don't think a lot of people before they start training realize that when you're throwing a punch, it's these two knuckles that are gonna be hitting your opponent. These two knuckles right here. It's not, you wanna have that primary striking point to be between these two, and that's it. Okay, so right there. And so, you know, when we have somebody come in, you know, you can just start with a basic boxing stance. That's perfectly fine. I have my left foot forward at the moment right here so that I'm squared up right here. I want to make sure that the hands stay up at all times, because even if you have a perfect punch, if you also get hit, the game might be over. So you want to be right here. I'm going to work with a basic jab. So that's just going to come out and back right here. Okay, so I'm going to go jab. Yeah. And don't leave it out there. A lot of beginners leave it out there, right, for too long. You don't want it to get grabbed. You want to be effective, so you want to pop real quick. Ready? Go. Pop. Good. And again, go pop. Good. And again, go pop. And see what you're doing with this hand here? I want you to keep this hand up this way. So that way you're protecting what is vulnerable on your face right here. You don't want to get hit. Okay? The cross, okay, and very important. So you've got your jab, that's your front hand. Your cross is going to come across this way. Very important that you put some rotation behind that. It's hard to see my feet at the moment, but what I'm doing is I'm coming up on the ball of my rear foot and I'm turning and twisting. And that hip action, that movement that starts from the ball of my rear foot is what's going to, if I don't rotate, you're going to have boom, boom, okay? Not as much power or as much distance is going to be had until I start to do this. And you see that arm is able to reach out more when you have that twisting action. So let's just work with just a basic jab cross. Ready? So we're going to be going obviously to our opponent's face. Keep your other hand right up here. So is that your right hand? Is that your right hand?
Here you go.
Yeah, there you go. Ready? Go. Jab cross. Good. Be real quick. So we're going to go. Do you have your left foot forward? It's hard for me to tell. I don't know if your screen is moving.
Now I do.
You do? It's okay if you want to have right foot forward. I just wasn't sure because it's hard. Sometimes the iPhone likes to flip the image. So ready? Go jab cross. Nice. And again, go jab cross. Good. Try to add a little bit of speed. Ready? Go jab cross. Good. Real explosive. And with speed comes power. You don't need to worry about the power. If you've got good technique and you've got speed, you're going to be okay. Ready?
I hear Bruce Lee.
Nice. And then relax for a second. So also, you know, I train in a very traditional system. So actually our system is Okinawa and Goju-ryu. And it's a very traditional art of karate. So we are very much strikers in our system. We've got some unique strikes that are awesome as well. We've got the palm heel strike, which my dad and I were just talking about before. Yeah, so when you do that, you want to keep this thumb in really tight. And you want to try to pull your hand back. So you don't want to be here limp. You want this hand back and tight so that the palm of your heel, that part of your hand is going to be what extends most. And that can go right to the face right here. Bam. And that can be very, and again, go bam. Good. Keep your thumb in. Ready? Bam. And again, pull those fingers back. Sometimes we need to work on developing those muscles so that that happens a little easier. And again, ready, go. Good. So if I've got my bag right here and I'm working, always imagine your opponent being like I always imagine my opponent being about my size, my build. So if I go to my bag, I'm just going to come out right there with that. So any questions?
Now, some great information. I actually didn't know that. I did not know that about the first two knuckles. You know, when you see people defending themselves or even in fights on TV, it's just a flat, like, you know, front punch. And
it's not the whole hand. And you know, if you're really serious about your training, and like anything, like, you know, you come from the bodybuilding world, so you know, you really want to put as much as you can into your training, and the body has to go through a conditioning process. And so hitting somebody with a gloved hand or a wrapped hand is a completely different experience from hitting somebody with a bare knuckle hand. And there's a lot of people who find out the hard way that they haven't conditioned their hands properly because they end up with a broken bone or, you know, something that has gone wrong, even if they had a perfect fist. And so we've got training tools and techniques. I don't have one here to demonstrate with, but such as the Makiwara. So you're continuously strengthening and toughening and conditioning that fist so that that bone starts to change and become stronger. That's so important. But that's not something that's glamorous. It's not often talked about.
Yeah, excellent. Is there a move or strike, a defensive move that you can utilize with your other hand to defend against an oncoming strike?
I mean, you can do anything with either hand for sure.
Because I always hear Bruce Lee saying, be like water. And he developed his style to basically defend against whatever you're doing, not set motions, not set strikes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it depends. Obviously, every situation is going to be different. So, yeah.
Like a straight punch. Well, how would someone deflect or push away that oncoming blow?
So, I mean, if something like that is happening, you, of course, can work with it. You've got two choices. If anything is coming at you, you have two choices. Either you get out of the way, or you find some way to maneuver their technique out of the way. So, you know, somebody throws a punch, you get out of the way. That's one method of not getting hit. And the whole point of it is to just not end up being the one that gets hit. Or your other option is to come across with a block, or come across in the block this way. You know, and that comes with, you know, more advanced training. Some of that's complicated stuff, so I don't want to get too in depth. But basics, either you get out of the way or you move that technique out of the way.
All right. So basically, if someone's coming with an attack with their right hand, if you do want to deflect, you would go on the inside of their arm or on the outside?
Well, honestly, most people, and you probably are aware of this as well, are going to be stronger this way. Okay. Right. If you're, you know, obviously you're very strong. You've got strong upper body. If you take both of your arms like this, and I try to move both of your arms, I'm going to have an easier time moving your arms across this way, as opposed to me being able to move across this way. Obviously, you've got more musculature that's going to make it harder for any person to move. So if you're here, I want to come across with, I want to move your technique over this way, because no matter what, those are where you're weakest. Makes sense?
Yes, excellent. Yep, yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I know what we eat and what our nutritional requirements. What are some of the nutritional requirements of people that are practicing martial arts? What should they eat and how often?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is going to be very similar to how you eat. I can tell you what I do. I eat 5 to 6 times per day, and I'm very structured in my macros. You know, I'm going to be in lean proteins, little bit of good carbs, and then plenty of fruits and vegetables and lots of hydration.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
That's what works for me. And I think for us, and just like anything, it's important to be physically your best. If you're showing up and you're not taking care of what's going on inside, what's happening outside isn't going to be 100%.
Exactly. Awesome. I couldn't have said that better. That's so important.
Yeah.
Now, the mental discipline of martial arts, practicing martial arts, you know, with bodybuilding, it's whatever you're doing, you stay to that grind, whether it's getting up at 6, getting up at 7, structured meals, hanging around people with positive energy, not missing workouts, hydrating. Like, what is the mental discipline that you have to maintain, no matter if you're 7 or 70?
I would tell you it's probably very much the same. It is being structured. It is being consistent. It's showing up on the days, even when you don't feel like doing it, you're still going to show up. And it's constant repetition. I think for some people that feels boring, right? There's a lot of people like, teach me something new, teach me something new. But until you master step 1 and 2, you can't move on to step 6, 7, and 8. So there has to be you have to let time do its job in this. And that's it. And just like bodybuilding, if you don't give it enough time for it to do its job, I don't care how many things you're doing well, you have to let yourself have time to develop the way that you need to.
That's a very important point you brought up, because just like a repetition or a certain angle for a different body part that you're working, you have to do structured repetitions, structured formations, and apply certain things over and over again to develop a certain muscle, to develop certain fibers.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with your, whatever appendage you're talking about, arms, legs.
Same thing, to develop a certain technique or a certain movement, you know, you might be doing it 75% right, but until it's 100% right, you have to stop, tweak it, repeat it until you replace your not so great habits with better habits. And I think for a lot of people a lot of people don't have the patience for that. So
absolutely, yes. Now, as far as some of your favorite weapons to practice with, do you have anything you could show us?
Yeah, you know what, I don't
Karma sticks.
I know you wanted the Bokin. I don't have the Bokin down here, number one, because my ceilings aren't high enough. I've got holes in my ceilings from trying to use the sword down here, so it's not a great option. But I can show you guys the size. We've got Our
Oh
size
my!
right here.
I love you right now.
Yeah.
I love you right now. One of my favorite characters in Mortal Kombat is Melina, and she uses the size. She uses the size, and I've always wondered. They're supposed to base those characters' movements off of real strikes. Yeah. And you got two of those?
Yeah, I do.
You have two?
So whenever we're working, okay, so I have to give you a little history because it's not just that we have weapons and we work weapons.
Right.
In our style, it's an Okinawan style. And if you know...
How do you spell that? How do you spell that, Alexa? How do you spell that?
Oh my gosh, here you go. Okinawan, Okinawa. Okinawa.
Okay.
Right? So Okinawa is a small group of islands that are off the coast of Japan. And so looking back in history, the Japanese took over that island. And so when they were colonizing that island or whatever, they took all of the weapons away from these people. And so the Okinawans are farm people. So what they had to rely on for their means of self-defense were their farm tools. So every weapon that you see in the Okinawan Goju system was formerly some form of a farm tool. So the sai, believe it or not, they used to work in the rice paddies. They used the sai to help harvest rice. That's what this was for.
Really? It's shaped exactly like that?
It might have. I'm sure it's changed over time because obviously this particular one is from, is for specific martial arts purposes. But this was where it originated from. It was a farm tool. And same with the bow staff. Are you familiar with the bow? I don't know if I have one handy. But the bow is a big, long wooden stick, okay? If you're a Ninja Turtles fan, it was Donatello, I believe.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever seen old pictures, right, when they would go get their water, they would have a bucket on each side, and he'd have the long stick, and he would use that bucket or that stick to carry those buckets. Well, all that they would have to do was drop one bucket, and then they would have their bow staff. So that they had to get really creative in how they were going to defend against the Japanese. And this particular weapon was actually really good at defending against the samurai sword, which was a Japanese weapon.
Yes, yes, I see that. So they always see these cool poses like that where they cross them before they fight. Is that like a thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that like if the blade of the sword coming down, you would want to have that right here. In there. So that's probably typically what you would see with that. But like anything with this, you want to be working this because this requires certain muscle control and development of the forearms. So if I'm working with a student and we're going to get into working the forms with the size, I'm not going to teach them anything other than the fact that they need to develop some control over the weapon. If you can't control the weapon, you have no business using it. So we spend a few weeks just simply doing this. In and out, right? We're working it in and out. Obviously, if you're right-handed, your left hand's going to need a little extra attention. And learning some basics, like this has to be pressed flush against your forearm. It can't be hanging out like this. You have to press down through your index finger so that it's tight against there. You want to make sure that, this is a little bit small for me, but I would like to see the blade go all the way down so it's, towards the edge of my elbow so I have full protection. So yeah.
That was awesome. Oh man, I never knew that about some of those weapons. I always wanted to learn. I did a little bit when I was younger, learned a little bit of that stuff, and I always wondered how some of them were manipulated and used, and if actual stuff in combat like that was actually utilized in real life situations.
Yeah,
so it's awesome.
It's the history. I think the history is really amazing, and like you said, like there's so much glamorizing of the martial arts through Hollywood and whatnot that people are paying more attention to, the flash. And there's a really rich history when you understand what it was used for and where it came from. It takes on a whole new meaning to the person that's learning it. And so, like, some people might be wondering, okay, we're talking about Okinawa, so we're in the States. Like, how did it get here? Well, it was our servicemen that were stationed over there who had the privilege of training, and they weren't always very accepting of having Americans come in and train. Like, you had to kind of prove yourself and be likable within the culture in order for you to really, really, truly learn the art. And so for our family, we were blessed with my father's main instructor, who was Shihan Frank Van Latten. He's passed away since, but he was stationed over in Okinawa and got to train with the Okinawans and brought it back here where we are. And my dad trained under him, so he got to learn it directly from him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So just want to reiterate, where's your school located? What ages do you teach? And what styles do you teach to your students?
Yeah, so I'm in Syracuse, New York, which is right in the heart of central New York. And I teach ages, I've got kids as young as 3, and then I have all the way up through adult. I teach, of course, our traditional karate program that I learned from both of my parents. And I also have a fitness kickboxing program for people that enjoy it, but don't really want to get into in-depth, and they just like to come in for the workout. So I have that option available as well. All
right. Any, what are your links that you can be reached at? Here or offline?
So people, of course, can follow me at Alexis Tierney Cool here on Instagram. I also have my Facebook page. That is my public page. And then they can follow the school at Tierney's MA. And, you know, we've got our website and whatnot that you'll be able to find those links all in there as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, what's up, Dave? Yeah, that's about it. That's a great segment. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I mean, if you're looking for a school, you know, if you're going to get into martial arts, get into it completely. Put your whole self behind it and really dedicate to learning as much as you can. It can change your life. I've seen it so many times through people. And yeah, I highly encourage, I think everybody should train. You'll see the world differently, for sure.
Like you said before, there's a lot of similar disciplines in bodybuilding and martial arts. The training, the nutrition, the repetition, the focus, the dedication, and, you know, just, you know, getting that, you know, it takes a lot to get up the same time every day to do the same thing over and over again for self-improvement and elevation. And that's what people got to realize. Guys, I can be reached at you know, on Instagram right here, Manny Fitness Fortress, TikTok, and YouTube at Manny's Fitness Fortress, where we have a ton of not only fitness, but nutrition content, women's workouts, men workouts, health-related issues, smoothie recipes, meal prep in the kitchen. So every week we're uploading new content. And I want to thank everybody that joined. Please, everyone that joined, please share Alexis's and my other platforms or other links, so we can indulge and constantly grow and inform each other. And that's it for me.